That's weird. Yeah, it was showing this picture a while ago. Okay. Maybe got mine. That's OBS for you. Okay, let's get on in there.
Well, hey, Gundamaniacs. Checking those audio levels, things like that. There's always these little things that happen when I start a show. And like another thing, there won't be any live clicking chat. But welcome to the Gundam Explained show live. I'm your host, Adam Blue. Joining me is Steven. Steven, how's it going?
Pretty good. Yeah, hanging in there.
Cool. Yeah, and
I'm excited
like
about
I
tonight.
said, what's up?
I said I'm excited about tonight.
Oh yeah, there's a lot, and like I'm gonna frame it here real quick, where I'm gonna talk about what we got, what I've been up to this week, some little gaming stuff, and then we're gonna get into like some Bandai releases and some cool Gundams that come out of that.
Yeah, these reissue drops have been insane.
Yeah, it's these things that I think we've all been wanting and scouring eBay for, and it's like, oh no, they're available. So
Yeah, and you and I are like their chief marketing people, because it's like, look, I'm going to show you guys why you should buy the 0088 Zeta. Okay, do not miss this pre-order.
if only
you have
we
until
really got
June.
paid for this. Like,
Can you imagine?
I know. No, but for today, those that watch live or even watch the video, not listen, I usually have the chat pop up, but something happened, so that's not going to happen on this episode. So I'll try to watch the chat. I love what you guys say usually, but yeah, we see
we'll
Robert
definitely read some stuff.
Atronimus, Hyena Mage, Talos, Ian, Aoshi-san. Good to see you guys. So Steven, our show yesterday, or on your channel, awesome. Like, again, it was like going into gaming and stuff. We're talking about live service. Helldivers 2 is out, and it's very popular. And I wanted to add real quick, so guys, after this, check that episode out to kind of see what we were talking about in terms of like live service games. And we talked a little bit about what we'd want out of Gundam. It was really cool, but I was going somewhere with that, and it was really good, and I totally forgot. But
it happens. No, you know what? It's funny because I've had such a long day today. I was like, what did we talk about on my show yesterday?
Yeah, it takes a second. No, but that stuff's always good. Today we'll talk a little bit about games, because there's actually some news. So not only we were talking about live service, what's going on in the industry. That Xbox podcast came out. They announced that there are 4 titles that are going to be multi-platform. None of them are their big titles like Indiana Jones, but they said maybe in the future down the line. But they know, and like even Sony announced today, they're going all PC. Like these companies are now having to make their games multi-platform. And what?
I mean, let's face it, like Microsoft didn't buy all of these publishers like Bethesda and stuff so that they could make multi-platform games. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They were going for console exclusives, and they're probably still going to. But yeah,
and not only that, from the time that they were planning to do this till now, the industry has completely changed, where even with what they did, now they have to figure out how to leverage that to shift into however things are in the future. They did announce that they are working on the next gen console, and that there will be a hardware announcement this winter, which I'm assuming is going to be the handheld. So
yeah,
cool stuff.
You're sticking to your guns on this. You're like, it's gonna be a handheld.
And plus, I like how they announced those things separately. They said there's a hardware announcement for this winter, but also we're working on the next gen console.
Yeah, so it informs you that there are 2 distinct things happening, and not just like a bait and switch.
But you know what? I think this is related to Gundam, because what I want to share now real quick, I'm going to do the screen share here real quick. This is from Shinobi602, kind of a prominent video game insider, and I've actually been an acquaintance with him for actually it was a long time ago. We haven't talked much recently once I've shifted from games to Gundam, but he found this, I guess Bandai released this. I can't read it. Maybe I could translate it, but I was lazy. He's, though, saying that Bandai Namco has canceled 5 titles in development. And
That's
these
wild.
might have not been announced let's see, and it's following losses in the prior quarter. Sony saw the same thing. They're seeing a what was it, a 25% decrease in what their expectations were. Um, and then they're going to have new evaluation rules and stricter pillars for greenlighting new games. But I got to say, I don't know about you, Steven, but I feel like Gundam games are probably in a different vertical. They're more of, okay, this is sustaining our plastic sales, instead of really like
Yeah.
banking on video games to make money.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Gundam video games is, yes, they are never going to be the primary sales driver, but they also have a very low overhead too, comparatively speaking. Like
Yeah.
they still obviously cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce, but a Gundam game, like you said, there's that double A category of game, and it feels like Gundam games always fall in the double A category. They're never going to be, a massive release, and that's kind of a good thing.
And there's supposed to be a Gundam release this year. I don't think that was the canceled one because it was supposed to come out last year. And
Right.
so I think it's more of they're just finding the right time due to multiple games being pushed because of COVID. So then games that were not affected by the COVID development are affected by the COVID just release schedule being pushed. So
Mhm.
anyway, just want to bring that up. I thought that was interesting. And like, if we were to guess what would be canceled, that would be Bandai Namco related. And I could be wrong on this, but I would think it would be like something that was like an original IP, original idea.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, no, I love that the image here has, like, Goku on the flying Nimbus, and it's like,
Oh,
I sincerely doubt that their DBZ games have been
right.
shelved.
Like Little
Um,
Nightmares, they've made 3 of them. They could make a 4th because I think this is lower budget, so I would almost think they wouldn't cancel that. Then there's
yeah.
that Scarlet Nexus. There could have been like something like that where it's just this unique IP that they're just like, yeah, we can't afford
And I have
that.
to say, the thing that makes me the saddest about this announcement is that little part at the end where they're saying, like, that they're going to be much more stringent about greenlighting games,
Yeah.
because I really don't think that the problem is the games that they've greenlit. I think that the problem is, and we discussed this yesterday, is publisher interference with, quality games.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with banking all of your games on a popular IP like Suicide Squad or The Avengers, but the problem is you can't shoehorn a popular IP into a monetization model. You know, a lot of these games that are live service games are, games built on the monetization model, not games that were.
Modified to fit
Yeah, you
monetization
see where
model.
I'm getting at. Like I
Yeah.
said yesterday, it's a square peg in a round hole, and, I think that clearly the economy is showing that, you know, gamers just aren't going for it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I just can't wait for the real Gundam game announcement they've got.
Yeah.
Um, okay, real quick, we're gonna get back to video games, but because some of this is related stuff that I got into this week. If you missed it, I have a video up on the G Savior CD soundtrack that came out, which
I
is
love it.
hilarious. Did you used to have a lot of CDs, like a big CD collection?
I did. So I'm pretty sure, my memory does not is not what it used to be, obviously, being an old man. But I want to say that the first CD I purchased was either Enema of the State by Blink 182
Oh,
or Blue by Third Eye Blind. One of those two
oh,
CDs,
that's
I
cool.
distinctly remember buying it from like a Walmart or a Kmart.
That's pretty neat. This wasn't one I bought, but I think my parents. I remember they bought me like the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack, and then I think the Ninja Turtles movie soundtrack, and then some I bought on my own. I have no idea. I just know that when I was in middle school, I was really into hip hop,
Oh
and
yeah.
like I would get who was it back then? It would be stuff like Mr. P, uh, older Jay
Oh yeah,
Z.
Master P.
Yeah.
Probably like Nas, and
Yes.
I guess,
Yeah.
what is Puff Daddy going by nowadays? Is it
Oh,
just
yeah, P.
Diddy?
Diddy. Yeah, yeah, Puff
Sean
Daddy,
Combs.
that was another one, yeah, back then that yeah, I was really into hip hop for a little bit. I think I liked it because it was interesting where that was a time where hip hop was kind of shifting to where it would be almost melodic, like dancier type of hip hop. It was still talking about things that I could not relate to, but but you know, even like that Jay-Z song that's in Rush Hour is like, "Can I get a what?" or something like that. Like that style of hip hop, like I was really into.
I mean,
But
that was like a whole, there was a whole generation there of like the late 90s and early 20 aughts that like almost every movie was designed to sell a soundtrack or to
yeah.
sell an album. Like I only recently realized this when it wasn't the first Austin Powers movie, but I think it was either the second or third one. I was watching it with my wife like a couple months ago, and I was like, "Oh my god, this thing is just packed with like Britney Spears songs and like all these." And I'm like, it's like those MTV produced movies that's like they obviously produced a movie specifically to cram a bunch of artists that they wanted to give a big push to.
Yeah, and that's interesting where you don't see that anymore. It's where a movie is promoting itself by getting a bunch of artists. I remember that's when I first discovered The Offspring because they were on the Batman Forever soundtrack.
Which where do they belong in
Yeah,
the
and it was cool
Batman Forever soundtrack?
because on it they just did a cover of a Damned song, which is a band from the 70s and
Yeah,
80s, and so like, yeah, I remember, yeah, that, and then Seal was on that, yeah, soundtrack,
right.
and then, yeah, it was from there where that was, like, kind of the normal, and that was the thing, like, back in the day when it was, like, I would get a movie soundtrack, I'd buy it, and it would be the pop songs, and
Yeah.
it took me a while to realize, "Oh, there's a score." That's what you call the soundtrack I really want, it's the score. Um,
Which,
yeah.
hey, bring it full circle. Remember, one of the things from the NHK documentary on the creation of the original Gundam was that fans of the original Gundam series wanted the Gundam soundtrack.
Yeah.
And so, the composer had to take these like 20, 30-second little clips and stretch them out into 2, 3 minute tracks.
Yeah. That's interesting because in general, Japan, I think they they do that same thing, but I think I don't wanna say they take it more seriously. What would be the term? They have it in a higher regard because they will have a popular singer kind of make the main sort of like a theme or the main, like, this is the song, whereas, like, some of the soundtracks for Hollywood films are just, here's a bunch of artists making a bunch of songs,
Right.
and
Yeah, they it's like they specifically commission an artist to write a song
yeah.
for the film as opposed to just taking one of their hits and slapping it in the movie.
And something else, I don't know if you know this or I don't know if this is true. Sometimes when I'll read YouTube comments of a video of like a Gundam song that an artist made, people will like talk about the lyrics and how, oh, that relates. And I don't know if that's deliberate. Do you think artists are deliberately writing lyrics to match themes of the shows?
I mean, I have to say that, what is that? There's that song in Unicorn where literally one of the lines in the song is, "I'm a unicorn," and I was like, "Well, that I really don't think that she meant to write that lyric unless it was specifically for Gundam Unicorn."
Yeah, that's oh, and Talos is saying very often Gundam uses music that fits the theme. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool because
and,
I know Talos is big into that stuff.
Aoshi-san, yes, it's the REIM, yeah, or REIM,
Is
but
that is that in Unicorn?
it is, yeah. I
Ah,
think it's
okay.
by Aimer.
Okay, yeah, I've recently in the past couple months have grown a greater appreciation for the Unicorn score. Like, there's that song, it's just called, I think, Mobile Suit Battle or something, or maybe just
Yeah,
Mobile Suit, and it's like it's orchestrated music, but then it has like the rock drums that come in, and I love it when stuff does that. So,
yeah.
um, okay, yeah, I want to bring up the CD thing because also, I also, up until about 2011, had a huge, huge plastic bin, and I can't even fit my hands on the screen to show, but a huge plastic bin full of CDs. And I remember I took it to one of those, I don't know what they call it anymore. Those used places where you can, and I
Yeah.
got a ton of money, not a ton, but I got a pretty good amount. But I had like, there was because yeah, end of high school, I was so into music. I was buying CDs all the time of like all my favorite bands, ripping them all. I had this whole collection on my computer. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna sell all this because that was around the time my wife and I were first moving in with each other. So I was like, I'm gonna just sell the stuff I don't need
Downsize.
because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need CDs. I even sold my DVDs. Then I had a huge DVD collection because like when Blockbuster was going out of business, you could like go in there and
Oh yeah.
just grab a bunch of movies. That was
And like
cool.
now it's funny because here we are years later and it's like, no, physical media, like buy
I
all the
know.
CDs.
I know. It's weird.
I
Well,
still have one of those obnoxious like zipper cases that has like all of my DVDs and
oh
old
yeah.
video games because my wife said like we can't have this bookshelf full of cases anymore. Like pick the ones that you really want to keep the cases and everything else is going in the binder.
And that I respect that because I think we sometimes, as long as you actually have the media, luckily it's all condensed physically. I
Yeah, yeah. Although, like I said, there's something to be said about and maybe this is just the hoarder in me, but like there's the
oh
packaging of it and,
yeah.
video game instruction manuals, that is like a lost art.
Oh, I
Especially
know.
for Gundam games. Like I still have the Zeonic Front PS2 instruction manual because it's got like the character bios for like Rower and Swaggart and Schmitzer and like the oh man,
Well,
it's
I'm glad you brought that up because this just came in the mail. I did a little. I was
okay.
kind of showing the setup for the Gundam Wii game using an
Yeah.
emulator. I made a video about that. But a lot of times I like to buy the game if I can, and this wasn't expensive. The,
Sweet.
the thing is, though, that we need to do, and maybe as a community we can work on that, is this game has a side story of characters, and I don't think this has ever been translated or used in any other form. Like this is a whole story uh that I don't think, yeah, I have to. So again, I like that, it has so much going on in here. I should try to translate what I can because look at the waifus. Okay, we've got another redhead there. We got a blue head. I don't know what that means, but no. And then we have the Xeon team too. So it's like you get some new characters from
Yeah, I
both
love it.
sides. And so and what's interesting too is this looks like a unique type of art style for Gundam, right?
I would say so. I
Wouldn't you
mean,
say like
especially that GM sniper in the background has like this very airbrushed quality to it.
oh yeah, and then there's the Dom right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I'm gonna have to translate this because I haven't seen anywhere that this story, and I don't understand the story. It's all in Japanese.
And I mean, all credit to Zeonic Scanlations for all the work that he does. I mean,
Oh yeah.
but for God's sakes, can someone please help him out? Like, can we can, can
Well,
we
he has a
crowdsource?
Patreon,
He does have a Patreon,
so
yes,
yeah, and then
but he's only one man. I think that there
right.
needs to be like a team of translators
Well,
that's working on some of these lost Gundam abandoned. It's not abandonware, I guess, but you know what I
Well,
mean. Abandoned
yeah,
media.
there's got to be a term for that. Things that were never like westernized, or like that are just lost. Because I did find, and I have to go back and find the link somewhere. There was a Gundam fan on Twitter that does translating. You just pay him, like you tell him what you need to translate, you pay him, and he'll do it. And I was like, oh, I
That's
might
sweet.
want to use him for that and for some video games, some like for instance the 3DS Gundam game. I would love to work with someone to get that translated, to have like a patch
Yeah.
for the ROM or whatever. By the way,
Now I do remember. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, were you said you were playing the 3DS game?
Yes, I did start playing it at your recommendation, and
Okay,
that game
cool.
is fantastic.
Okay, good. I am glad that you get to experience it and understand. Like there's
Yeah.
something about it that makes it seem like a AAA game on a 3DS.
Yeah, it's really good, and I mean, like you said, the graphics really hold up for what they are, It's like
I
all of
know.
those Gundam PS2 games, they're low poly, but they put so much love and so much detail into the textures that you really don't even notice it.
And it seems like they use a lot of effects where they can, effects to kind of highlight whether it's like bloom or a type of shading. There's always something to kind of make it look nicer than it is.
Yeah.
Um, have you gotten far in it?
Not too far. I've only kind of been playing off and on. I think what was the mission I left off on?
Because it is kind of it gets grindy. Like there's a lot of missions just over and over and over, and then after a while you'll be at one that's hard, and then you kind of got to go back and grind a little.
And I mean, even I didn't even get very far before I started going back because I was like, well, I just unlocked a new Zaku, so of course I'm going to go back and
Oh,
try
you
to
chose
turn that.
Xeon. That's
Oh,
something I
of
forgot.
course I did.
Yeah, that's cool.
You're
That's
like,
something
I
I
forgot
forgot
you're a
'cause
bad guy.
yeah, because even if I beat it on the Federation side, then there's the whole Xeon side to do. So that game is packed.
It is,
Yeah.
and I love that. You know, this is something that I think video games don't really do anymore, where you have like you get to create your own character. Oh, it sounds stupid when I say it that way because obviously it's like, oh, you can create your own character in like Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3, but there's something unique about the character creation system in some of these like older Gundam titles where it's like, you get to pick your pilot and then you get to pick like your
Yeah.
operator and
Yeah.
the whole like character creation system is pretty unique.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost like you're attached to this pilot because you're choosing the name, you're choosing the profile. Like there's a few different options. And then I've noticed while you're playing, when you're choosing a mission, it actually allows you to change pilots to like depending on if it's real world, like it could be
Yeah,
Camille, for instance, if you're on or Amuro. If so, it's neat how you could play it as your own character, but then you can choose to make it canon and be um and it
yeah.
helps too because when you're a new type character, you have extra powers. So
True. Now it does, if you choose to be a new type, you end up like locking off a whole bunch of skills that you could have used if you were a non-new type, which
yeah,
I think
that's
is
it.
so cool. And I love that it shows it to you. Like one of the
Yeah.
things about certain games is it's like if you choose a certain class or something like that, it doesn't show you what you're missing out on.
Mm.
This game like will show you, hey, here are all the
Like that
skills that you
grid
could
of
choose.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got like a grid of skills that you can add, and it's like, oh, you can't add any of these because you're a new type.
Yeah. So technically then that game could be played through 4 times to get the ultimate experience, being a
Yeah.
new type or a non-new type, on
And then
Xeon
either
Evolution.
faction.
Yeah. And then, to continue with the video games, I got a new controller again. It's
Hey.
so it was just this was $40 on Amazon, and I was like,
Oh, that's a
"Okay."
case. I thought it was just a huge controller.
No, the case, which is nice because this is $40, and then here's the controller itself, and it has LEDs on it. It
Awesome.
yeah, it's really nice. Like it has trigger stops. It has the back buttons, which I'm starting to like more now. Hall effect triggers and thumbsticks. But another thing, it has on the thumbsticks. It came with the those you've probably seen them around like control freaks or like the thumb grip tops.
Yeah.
I have never believed in that, thinking I don't need that. And
No.
then I wanted to try it for fun on this because I was like, well, I paid for it. And I saw the light. I having my thumbs slightly raised and having more of that grip on the surface, it really helps me fine tune things. So then I bought some more. So on my main driver, I found these for $7 on Amazon to put on top, and I can't go back. I
Look,
cannot
all
go back.
all I'm saying is that there's nothing that beats the dog snout, okay? This
The
is all
dog.
you need. This is all you need is a dog's nose underneath each of your thumbs. You do not
Well,
need
and so that's another good point because I've always disliked that sort of shape for on PlayStation uh, Analog 6. But then I realized it's because them being up, but then further down on the pad and closer together was what made it hard for me.
Mm.
Once I could get that, separated, like, oh wait, here's something funny. I got these for the DualShock 5, but like,
Credit where it's due. When you get into something, you go all in.
oh, I do. I want to know about it so I can like properly speak on it when I'm at a party with my drink and someone's like, "Oh, thumb grips on controllers, eh?" It's like, "Oh, let me tell you." Yeah, yeah, that doesn't happen. But I would say, guys, if you and I wonder if this also too helps my thumbs in the long run. Like there's only been one time I think from playing video games that my thumbs ever started hurting, and I just applied ice. I think it was like for a few minutes, every few minutes for like 30 minutes or something, and for a couple days, and then it went away.
Hmm.
And I think it's because maybe I was playing a lot of Elden Ring at the time or something. But um, I wonder if there are some things you can do positionally, ergonomically, with your thumbs that maybe over time, you know. You don't hurt
Yeah,
them.
I mean, I'm sure that there are some design aesthetics that need to be taken into account. I know that like Nintendo is infamous for having like the most terrible ergonomics of any
Yeah.
controller. Like I like that the Switch has like the Joy Cons and stuff, but like that is not a comfortable controller to play with long term. Now, thankfully, I've never had any controller related injuries since the late '90s when I would get blisters on my palm rotating the thumbstick on a Nintendo 64.
N64? Yeah. Like Mario Party or some other game that required
Exactly. You
that.
gotta wind up that Shy
Yeah.
Guy so that you can get the longest flight time.
And then you'd see all, like, the white powder, in that little hexagon or whatever, or octagon where all the 'cause it's wearing off.
Oh,
Yeah, it's crazy. Um, yeah, so I think that's it with the Gundam stuff I got into this week. I know I got my shipping notice for the Robot Spirits, Blue Destiny and Afreet, so I'm super excited about that. So those will be reviews coming up soon.
awesome.
Okay. So let's move on to this other topic here, and that's gonna be premium Bandai stuff coming out.
Nice. There's some good
So
ones in this release.
yeah, yeah. Like for instance, I think the ones that stand out for me are the Lindwurm and the G line standard armor.
Yep.
And is this G line standard armor like the first time the G line is being made as a?
No, this is a reissue because remember the G line was released late last year as well. Now
Oh,
I
so
think
okay.
I think I
That
actually missed out on this one, but I know that our mutual friend Zionic Shadow picked one up.
okay. That's what I was thinking of. That so this is just a re-release of that, which it looks awesome. It's an awesome robot. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
I
probably gonna
mean,
pick this up. Uh,
I'm thinking about it. We'll see. I've
so
I've pre-ordered a little too much recently
oh,
to commit to another. But obviously, I love anything that's representative of 0081.
yeah, I wanted to ask about that because I even pulled up like, yeah, it's introduced in 0081, and so that's a game that you totally dig,
Yeah.
and I need to get good. Um, but was
I
that the
mean,
first?
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, was that the first time the G line was introduced?
Yeah, so there's three variants of the G line. Obviously, there's the standard armor, there's the light armor one that has like the red shoulder plates, and then there's like the heavily armed one that has the shoulder cannons. It would be cool if they, eventually come out with the light armor and the assault armor variants, but
Yeah,
yeah,
they
you and I need to definitely hop on and stream some more
yeah.
0081. Yeah, I remember we were stuck on that mission that was like one of the bonus, like the DLC missions where you actually have to hunt down Anna Volgato.
Yeah, and did he, like, just show up and destroy us all or something?
Oh yeah, it was a massacre.
Yeah, we gotta do that again, and I need to practice, a little bit more because that it's a good game, it's got a good story. Because I think that's a pivotal story moment because it's like, what's really going on right after the One-Year War, you know?
Yeah,
Like, so that stuff is cool. Okay, the other one on here is the Lindworm, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started, but, um, this is just top tier design in my opinion.
yeah,
In terms of the edgier side of UC Gundam, as you know, Zeta kind of introduced things being literally edgy. Um, and and I guess like the Bawu, which is a favorite of yours, this kind of I guess the Zeta line ended up creating a Bawu, and
yeah,
then this is from Build Fighters, where I guess the builder gets a Bawu and makes it look like a Zeta.
yeah. Essentially, it is like a Bawu and a Zeta had a baby, which I love that. That's like my
Yeah,
two favorite mobile suits.
that's true. And you said
Um,
you have this also, right?
Yeah, I haven't built it. It was one of those again, a re-release that stay on top of these P Bandai re-releases. I can't stress this enough. I feel like I am, doing amateur marketing work for them because between the 0088 and like the Varguil that were released in the last drop, now you're getting the Lindworm and the G line again. These are amazing kits that like I mean, I don't wanna miss out on them, but I also don't wanna be broke.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've it's funny, I've gone a little while without pre-ordering a kit. So I think I might grab this one too. And I was looking at the forearm, and it looks like it's like the leg of the Mark II.
Yeah, isn't that funny? It kind of has
Yeah.
that. It's an interesting cut there.
Yeah.
Like
That's
maybe they
pretty
took
cool.
the high grade legs and stuck them on the arms.
Yeah. And I like the flight backpack looking thing. It reminds me of some of the cool designs out of Seed, where they have those little. Yeah, this
Definitely.
is a great looking robot. Um,
Hmm.
I even think those like third party ones that have been coming out recently, like third party, like non Gundam, they just look like a Gundam, look like this.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say so. That's another one that is super popular right now. Is that monument that was announced, the third party tall geese?
Oh yeah, that actually looks really good.
It looks really really good.
All right, and then you shared some pics with me about this. Okay, so this is something that looks like, and it's kind of based on the design of where the Lindwurm came from anyway, because it's Bawu and what else?
I guess it's basically just like a Federation version of a Bawu because it's got that kind of visor that you would see on like the Rizel or maybe like one of the Delta lines,
Yeah,
but it does retain most of the Bawu look to it.
yeah. Yeah, and you know what? It's like again, every time I feel like I prefer a V fin over just a single blade there, but that shield, that looks like the Toadsritter shield. Is that used on anything else?
I think it's just the Bawu shield. So like,
Oh,
yeah, the Totus Ritter uses it as well, but
so is the Toadsritter shield then just from a Bawu?
I would assume so.
Okay, so that's how that worked. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
like the way that looks. And then the other one you sent me was, I guess, someone made a custom.
yeah, looks
Of
like
that?
an Amuro Ray custom Bawu.
Wow, yeah, that it looks great, especially seeing this like recent artwork of the Amuro's. What is it? Is it the Rick DJ? What one am I thinking of? No, not the Rick DJ. Um, yeah, one of the DJs for the Moon era.
Oh yeah,
I forget his
I
name.
think that
I
it
know.
was the Rick DJ.
Okay, maybe it is. Okay, like I love like the recent art from UC Engage coming out with that. Like, it's neat how designs that I'm not necessarily too interested in when it's an Amuro Ray custom. It looks cool all of a sudden. I don't know if it's the primary colors and it's like reaching in and grabbing my childhood and being like, "You like primary colors."
Probably. I mean, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, all of the. I'm not even a huge Amuro fan, but like the Zero Shiki that has the Amuro Ray custom, like that looks awesome. The
Yeah.
the Amuro Ray custom Rigazi looks awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, the, whenever an Amuro Ray custom drops, I'm like, man, why
Yeah.
do I have to like Char? Paint
That's
it
right.
red.
Yeah, I think you have to. You don't want to get a colony drop. But no, there is something, yeah, about that Amuro Ray color look. It's almost like after the original Gundam, those colors are more of a Amuro thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, oh,
It
okay,
definitely does
so
give you an appreciation for designs that maybe you didn't appreciate before. Like I typically don't gravitate towards the DJ generally.
yeah, I don't either. But I think when it's in the right hands, and I think we've seen that with the Gundam shows where like an old suit that looks a little weird, we see in later versions, like how Thunderbolt takes old designs and just makes them work without
Yeah,
going too far. Just adding more detail as the technology allows them
exactly.
to add.
Just
Yeah.
just reimagined.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's see. Looking at chat here. Oh, Zionic Shadow showed up. Good to see you. Johnny Tacoma.
Yeah,
Good
please
to
stop
see you.
saying robot.
Jane Mo. I like Robot. It's funny how that was growing up. Like I liked Robot stuff, but I felt like there was never any really good stuff until Gundam. That's really weird how there was that divide of robot stuff all through the 80s and 90s between like American or Western stuff and Japanese stuff. Like
I
completely
think
different.
it does help having like an alternative nomenclature associated with a robot because typically like I don't consider myself enjoying like giant robots generally. It's like, oh no, I like mobile suits, or like I like the um what you call them from Pat Labor, but or
Which is a
or
rideable mech.
yeah, or like the Valkyries from Macross. It's like I like having a mech term that isn't just robot.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I know what you mean, because it's robot is like, I guess, an assumption that something is man-made out of metal and powered by electricity that then has its own automation to some degree. Not that it's a fully conscious thing, but it has a
Yeah.
function.
And
Um,
Jangmo in chat says Megazord was good, which like Zords is always cool.
oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's and Zoid.
And Zoids.
Yeah.
And I guess it goes back to the idea that the root of the word robot is slave, right? So it's like when I
Oh.
think of a robot, I typically think of like, one of these mechs that's designed for like manual labor. Like I think of like a droid from Star Wars. You know,
Um, what would you say about Power Loader? Or is that more of a augmentation of a human?
I still give that credit. The power loader is pretty sweet.
It is. That's funny because, yeah, like, when I say, like, I grew up liking it's like I liked robots, but just like I guess anyone would, but, like, when I saw the power loader, I was like, "Okay, now that's a robot." Or,
Yeah.
Exo Squad, when that came
Oh,
out, I was
Exo
like,
Squad was so awesome.
"That's a robot." Yeah, and then later with Lost Planet, there's always these gaps with what I've thought were good robots, and I think what
Oh yeah, Vital Suit is a pretty cool.
yeah, that's right, yeah. It it really was, um once, like, the concept of riding and controlling it is, I think, what sells me on loving a robot. Like, if it's a robot, but mech, I think mech is just the best all around term.
Exactly. And you can even see that. I think that that's the reason that like mecha is the term in Japanese media,
Oh
whereas
yeah.
in the West, we default to robots, and it's like you get robot jocks.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. Or iRobot, like, I think that's a better association in the West here, like, where
Hmm.
yeah, it works that way. Even though it yeah, if the root word is slave, or the root, original meaning, that works for something like iRobot. That's why I
Right.
think there's a better delineation to say, like, mecha, you know,
Exactly.
out of that. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So
Sorry if it's a weird tangent.
no, it's a good tangent because really I ran out of topics. So yeah, we can continue to go down this tangent. Is like, what are so for instance, Pacific Rim.
Right.
I don't uh, like, it's a cool concept, and I don't care that I don't like the designs, but I don't like the designs. Like, they're not bad, but it's not like, wow, that is an amazing mecha. Like,
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that like the Gypsy Danger is kind of flat and boring. I think that Cherno Alpha, the Russian one, that was awesome looking because it evokes that feeling of like Russian brutalism. You know what I mean? So it's like it's
I'll have
almost
to,
like the Jaegers that were created by the other countries had much more personality and much more like flavor infused into them than just like the Gypsy Danger, and then what was the other one, like Avenger or something? I don't remember
yeah,
all the
that
names
that
from.
sounds right or something. Yeah, because I watched the first one and I don't think I saw the second one. And it's funny because, like, when I first heard of Pacific Rim, I was like, "Yeah, that's what I would like." And then when I watched it, I was like, like,
"Eh,
I watched it
it's okay."
once, you know? Usually when I like a movie, I watch it multiple times. But um, so what's interesting too is when I think of other Western robot type stuff, it's another James Cameron thing, but like T2, like, when you see that battle at the beginning, we have those exoskeletons. I think that's what they called them. It,
Yeah.
like, eh, so that's what's interesting. And other Gundam has done this where it's a robot, but there's not a person in it. And I wonder, like, at the end of the day, w- w- it would be interesting if that was a push, and that they do this in some Gundam. Like, it doesn't Wing do that where the dolls or something? Isn't there like a
Yeah, the
uh,
mobile dolls, the AI
yeah,
controlled mecha. I really like and going back to sort of Cameron and 80s
yeah,
movies, I like how in RoboCop they don't have they don't have like a term for the robotics. It's like everything is just called whatever its model name is. Like
Yeah.
the Ed 209, Ed 209 is not a robot. He's not a mech. Ed 209 is Ed 209. He is like the mobile police unit, the autonomous mobile police unit,
Yeah.
and then I think in the RoboCop remake they had the Ed 208s, which were like the humanoid versions.
And
Um I love that. I love just calling things what they are instead of like having a broad category to stuff them into.
right, and they did a good job of that, and I forget what the guy's name was in RoboCop 2, but it was interesting because it was another again, it wasn't where they had a human that they augmented because they were damaged. It was where they kind of tried to take the consciousness of this guy or
Oh
his
yeah,
brain.
Kane.
And yeah, Kane, right, and
Yeah,
then
Robo
boom.
Kane.
Yeah. Which that's cool. That's like another way to go about it. Like it's like that line between robot and human. In Gundam, you've got humans piloting the mecha. In Terminator, you've got these skeletons that are just, or the exoskeletons that T1000s that are, I think that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
T800.
Well, T800 was the
Yeah.
Terminator, T1000.
That was the liquid dude.
Um,
Yeah.
oh
So
man, did you ever go to that like Universal Studio? Was it Universal Studios ride where
big.
where Arnold introduces you to like the T1 million, which was the
Yeah. Wasn't it
stupidest
like
name for
supposed to be a sequel or something like, but its own thing, like its own
yeah, it was like
story?
this ride that
Yeah.
it was so
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. And
Ultronus in chat says Robocane powered by drugs, which
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
One of the
And
things that's cool about RoboCop 2, and I think that this is gonna relate, I think, in terms of like Gundam and video games for that matter, is one of the things that like the whole reason the conflict in RoboCop 2 is the fact that they were trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice by making a RoboCop 2. And so it's like they have those failed RoboCops where that they're trying to make. It's like one of
yeah.
them steps out and shoots one of the scientists and like the other one pulls his head off and
Yeah,
falls
like
over and dies.
screams and yeah, like that's why
So it's funny because when you have a hit, when you have a franchise that does so well, and then you try too hard to recreate that magic, what I don't care whether it's a video game, an anime, like sometimes you just can't do it twice, you know?
yeah, and I think RoboCop 2 worked because the idea was like, well, we'll just remake the first one and just
Yeah.
make sure it has all of those beats, the satire, the extreme, like cartoony extreme moments to kind of uh, contrast the violence with the humanity of, the RoboCop dude himself.
Yeah.
And yeah, because we were talking a few months ago because you had watched it recently, I had watched them recently, and I was like, these movies hold up well, and the fact that the sequel was made by Irvin Kershner of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, the sequel doctor himself, like
Yeah, I know it's
well, and
amazing.
of course, Rogue City had just come out, the
Oh
RoboCop
yeah,
video
that was
game,
great.
which like, you
Yeah,
know, as far as video game adaptations of films or other franchises go, you know, more of that, please. Like what
yeah. Yeah, that was, uh, unfortunately, it wasn't gameplay I like in video games, but if like I was a RoboCop mega fan, like I'm just enough of a RoboCop fan where I played through that longer than most Bethesda games. But it, but if I was a mega fan, I would like for the Aliens Colonial Marines, the really bad one made by Gearbox. I
yeah.
was mad, but I played through it like 5 times, and I would go look in the world at Hadley's Hope and be like, "Oh yeah, there's this, there's that from the movie." Like, I liked that stuff, and
Yeah,
yeah,
there's something to be said about getting a creator who's so passionate about the source material that, they're willing to compromise. I say it's like they're willing to compromise the gameplay. It's like they're really almost willing to compromise their own art in order to make sure that the source material is done justice.
yeah,
And I know that that sounds weird to say because, you're like, well, why would you want to make a bad like Gundam game? It's like, no, you're not making a bad Gundam game. You're making a video game that by other standards would be considered bad, but for a Gundam fan, it is a true love letter to the franchise.
yeah. I would even say like Battlefront 2, like its
Yeah.
gameplay wasn't anything unique, but for a sort of encyclopedic Star Wars game that's all about the battles, which is why I like Star Wars. like that lets you just relive that stuff the moment
Yeah.
because it has the music, the sound effects, like and the controls. Like, yeah, if a game has good enough controls, like if I'm invested in the world, I'll play it. And I think Bandai knows that.
Yeah.
And not just with Gundam, but even like some of the other IPs they have. Like they're never amazing revolutionary games, but they do what they need to in that world to give people that.
And I think that that ties into why they've canceled some of those upcoming titles is that
Yeah.
they probably don't meet that standard that they're trying to hold in account.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. Hey, circles back to games. We can never
It
escape.
always does. I
I
mean,
know. I know. So well, then maybe let's shift this to movies. I know we were just talking about some movies, but like you know, in the 90s, were there any robot movies? Like in terms of mecha, I should say, were there any mecha movies? Like,
um,
riding
that's
a
a good
robot,
question.
why is that rare in the US?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of as far as films go, there's budget limitations. So like,
Yeah, maybe
that
that's what it is. Maybe it's hard to pull off someone riding a robot. Um, and and then I wonder because you get stuff like RoboCop where the audience enjoys someone behind a helmet where you don't get too much of their humanity. It comes in subtly. And then you get things like Master Chief where he's behind a helmet the whole time because you can be that. And I feel like that's the point. You're kind of anchored or grounded in that mech because there is a human behind it, even though you don't see them. You can kind of anchor yourself into that. So
yeah.
the
And you know what? That's a very good point because I know that now, Pierce Rare from Rise from the
oh,
Ashes, the Dreamcast game, I
yeah,
know that now he has a canonical appearance, but in the video game, they never show Pierce Rare.
no,
You are playing as Pierce Rare, but, like, they really allowed you to inhabit that role and make it yourself, which is super cool because it's not even like there was a character creation screen where it's like, I'm going to give my character dark hair like I have, and I'm going to give him
yeah,
the green eyes, and then I'm going to make sure that his face is, just it's like, no, no, no. We're not even going to go through all that trouble. You're in a mech anyway. Just be you in the mech.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I wonder if then that's what maybe has been the hard part of those films being made. Because and again, it could be just me. Maybe we have this little Japanese culture virus or something where it's like like Japan has embraced mecha, like people piloting robots, but
Yeah.
in the US, no. And I can't wrap my head around it because it seems like the most obvious cool thing.
Well, and what's the name of the actor who's playing Master Chief in the series?
Oh,
Pablo
Schreier or Schreiber
Schreier,
or something like that.
Schreiber.
Yeah.
So I remember he said like, "Yo, we have to unmask Master Chief so that you can see
Oh,
his
yeah.
emotions." And it's one of those things where I know that, that was like a huge deal on Twitter. People were posting like clips from Halo, like saying like, "See, look, you can see Master Chief's emotions without him taking his helmet off." But I think that one of the things that the Gundam anime has done a really good job of, and even some of the video games, is you can almost sense some of the emotion behind a mobile suit that, sometimes it's
Mm,
just like a subtle head turn or something like, they don't have these um and it's part of the reason why I don't consider myself an anime fan. I consider myself a Gundam fan is
yeah.
because typically anime involves a lot of gesticulating and like over the top gestures and emoting. But something about Gundam series is you can almost see disappointment from a mobile suit. And it's not like they slouch the mobile suit's shoulders like, "Oh, I'm sad."
Yeah.
It's just like there's like a subtle turn or like they hold a pose for a little too long. Um, eh,
Yeah.
I really love that kind of stuff. I think even I just rewatched, the new translation
Oh,
movies,
yeah.
the Zeta Gundam movies, and, like, there are certain points where, like, the Zeta Gundam is just kind of hanging there, and it's like, "Oh, man," like, I can see that Camille's upset. I don't have to see his face to know he's upset. It's like I see it in the mobile suit.
Yeah, I love that because it's like BT, I think the name in Titanfall. Like it was a
Yeah.
little more emotive, but I thought like, and I've always thought, I think I brought it up here that like in the live action Gundam movie, I think they need to juxtapose scenes of the RX-78 too, like as the characters are talking. Maybe he's in the background as they're talking about something, and the way he's shaped or positioned or his head, it's like kind of adds to the emotion, even though it's just a robot, but to kind of link Amuro's struggles with the machine that's driving his struggles. It's I I think that would be I think it's important. And
Yeah.
it's kind of I think what kids do and why they get into like things like Grogu or Minions because it's something that doesn't
Yeah.
really have a full like personality or something you can necessarily relate to, but it's something you could project yourself onto because it's cuteness, it's happy, it's but I want to go back because you brought up Master Chief or you brought up the Halo show, and
Yeah.
I saw like the first 3 episodes of the first season, and I didn't like it because they were like making up a story that wasn't part of Halo, which that's fine when they're adapting, but it was too far out into something else where they were using too much tropey television storytelling instead of being a Halo story.
Yeah.
But I started the second season, and the first episode has probably the sickest action of a video game translated to a show I have ever seen. Not that the first Halo show
Interesting.
did it good. Um, but then it goes into a lot of Master Chief or John wearing just like normal clothes. And it's like, but I wonder, like, I have to like really be honest with myself. Like, is this a matter of in order for this to be broadly accepted as a show with this budget, we have to kind of be tropey with the storytelling? Or is it where they're not taking their time to really make that sort of faceless, quiet avatar be the center? And I go back to look at like Evil Dead 2, where most of that movie is Bruce Campbell by himself, not even talking. Like he's just yelling and stuff.
Which is great because it's like he's such a character that he could carry a movie. It's a lot like that movie Castaway. Like Castaway
Oh
is
yeah.
almost silent the entire time because it's just Tom Hanks on an island by himself. And maybe he says one or two things, he starts talking to Wilson or whatever, but like u- using just your body and just your emotions to carry a story is really impressive. And I think that with the Halo show, they saw something in like The Mandalorian and the fact that like Din could carry a show without taking his mask off and he could be this stoic character.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think that Halo doesn't work as a TV show because the stories in Halo are movie length. Like the first Halo video game, and I'm not super deep into the Halo lore, but I do love the stories of the video games.
Yeah, same here.
There's no point where it's like he has downtime where he like goes back to the ship and takes his suit off and stuff like that. But you can't
Yeah.
do that in a TV show. You can't have just nonstop action and
Yeah.
but the whole quest that he's going on in the first Halo video game, it's like, of course he would never take his suit off. Like he never gets a chance to stop and
It's
talk to
almost
other
like a
characters.
it's almost like a nonstop, like a Dude, Where's My Car, where they're constant the whole movie is them having to, or Harold and Kumar or something, where
Yeah.
it's like they have to go on this adventure the entire time.
Right, they don't get to change their clothes, they don't get to, like, sit down and have a meal or anything like that. It's like, did Odysseus take his arm well, no, he did take his armor off because he slept with a lot of,
Oh,
a lot of women during, the Odyssey. But, no, I mean, there's those
so
I think should be films. They should be feature-length films.
okay, and so it does seem like then that if if they were to really take their time on writing it, they could write something where Master Chief just has his helmet on the whole time because it's about the world and the characters reacting to him because he's the Master Chief. He is going to save people. He's going to kill the bad guys, and then everyone else is giving the story. And they could have done that so easily. And I feel bad because I like the actor that's playing Master Chief. I
Yeah,
think that was a Alan Ritchson though, the guy from Reacher. It's like he looks more like what you would assume,
of
Master Chief
course.
would look like. But yeah, and so I'm conflicted. But at the end of the day, I think because there's examples of things written where the main character. Oh, Is it Fury Road? The
Oh yeah, the Mad
Mad
Max movie.
Max? Yeah, where what's his name?
Tom
Max.
Hardy. Yeah, Mad
Yeah.
Max.
He barely talks in it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that that was one of those instances of a bit of a bait and switch because obviously they called the movie Mad Max Fury Road, but the movie was about Furiosa.
Right.
And I don't here's the thing, is like I don't think that it was a bad movie. I think
No.
Furiosa is a super compelling character.
Yeah.
But if they had just called it Fury Road and said it was set in the Mad Max universe, no one would have gone and seen it.
That's why, yeah, this next one is now called Furiosa, actually,
Yeah.
that they're making. So,
Which is cool, but like, yeah,
yeah,
I think that to your point, you can use that title character as like an emblematic, you know, almost like a plot point instead of a character.
they could have easily made it where Cortana was more of that character that is expositioning and setting up the relation between the world and the Master Chief. Yeah,
Which
just
would be great because Cortana, is your only companion in that game.
oh,
It's
yeah.
funny because if you think about it, Halo has a lot in common with a lot of like Legend of Zelda titles where, you play as Link and Link never talks. You only hear
Yeah.
Link grunt and yeah.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
always has a companion with him, whether it's Navi or Midna or
Right.
Fi, you know, Cortana is that like mentor companion that travels with Master Chief, and she's the one that does all the talking and all of the exposition. So I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, I think it could definitely be done, and I, I think maybe it's a challenge for writers, but I bet it's when the executives see how come this character never talks, we don't see him, and it's like, well, because that's the words. Yeah, these executives don't play Halo.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I even think
Which
they
just goes
said
back to what
that,
we were saying about video games. It's like,
but
the publishers don't play video games. The
yeah,
publishers just,
but
count the beans.
I want to say even when they were making Halo, didn't they say some of the production team didn't play it on purpose to like be able to kind of do their own thing? But I don't know.
That's a terrible philosophy. I'm pretty sure that like there's I've seen way too many of these compilations of like people that are like, oh yeah, I didn't even read the comic books before I started working on this, Marvel movie, or like no, of course I never watched the old TV show before I wrote this movie adaptation. Like I just don't understand how or why you would do that.
Yeah, in Aoshi-san is saying they canned the first season writers.
Mm,
Oh, okay. So it'll be cool to see then what happens. Because then you got to ask, and I think this is with any IP. It's like, okay, if you're making a Halo TV show, what is neat about Halo that then you would put on screen? What is it? If it's the fighting, and that's okay, well, they got that actually. The action scenes, they got that. But
mhm.
yeah, it's I suggest people to check out that first episode of the Halo season 2 just
Yeah.
because like the fighting is badass. Like I'm shocked. Like I almost want to say that it was like, okay, guys, we just got to make some badass Halo looking action. Whatever story filler you have to throw in there, just do it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times the ultimate solution, and this is one of the things that Gundam has done so well, is you write stories in the universe without using the characters that people know and love from the franchise
Oh,
already.
yeah.
You know, don't make a video game about Amuro Ray. Make a video game about Pierce Ray, or make a video game about Hugh Corrand, these side story characters. I think the Halo TV show would have been much more successful if it were just about some of the Marines, if it was like Band of Brothers but set in the Halo universe.
Oh,
You know, because then
excellent point.
you can go crazy with it. Like have fun. Don't then you're no longer shackled to, trying to uphold
Yeah,
this
make it just the
icon.
story is about this core group of Master Chief with his Marines trying to make it across the battlefield. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe they encounter Master Chief and he helps them with a couple of battles, but like, that goes into what you were saying, where it's like he's not the focal point. He's not the protagonist. He's just, a part of the story.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is interesting. Well, that just about does it then. Yeah, that's it for this. This was great because yeah, I think midway through I was like, okay, all my topics are talked about, but we saved it.
I think so. Yeah, we can hold it down. We can probably go for another hour,
I
honestly.
know. It just one little thing can trigger a whole bunch of discussion. But
Oh yeah,
well,
get me talking about movies and video games, and I'll start.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, thanks everyone that joined. Yeah, glad you could be here. Check the links in the description for supporter stuff for Steven's channel. If you missed the show yesterday, we really dive deep into like some video game stuff, live service stuff. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, so Steven, anything else? Are we good?
No, I think you nailed it. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for all of the chat and for
Yeah.
always fact checking us. I appreciate you
I
keeping us honest.
I know.
See you guys later.
Cool guys. Yep. See y'all.